Welcome to this video lecture on Module 1 of Reading Fiction. Reading Fiction is a core paper prescribed for the third semester BAEnglish students of the University of Kerala. In this series, we will be looking at each section in Module 1. I'll be just giving you a very brief introduction to each topic. Now, these are the topics that are prescribed for study in Module 1. Prose fiction, types of prose fiction, fable, short story, novel, novella, etc. Then the elements of fiction, types of novel, the different types of novel, creative non-fiction, and then the narrative strategies. The prescribed text is a concise companion to literary forms published by Emerald. Now, these topics will be found in your prescribed text in the chapter 3. Now let's begin with the first topic, prose fiction. What is prose fiction? Fiction generally refers to any narrative written in prose and which is imaginative as opposed to historical or factual truth. The term fiction is derived from the Latin word fictio, meaning the act of making or fashioning. Nowadays, the term fiction is usually used as a synonym for the novel. There can also be fictional texts based on history, called historical fiction, or incidents that happened in real life, called fictional autobiography, etc. For example, Daniel Defoe's Moll Flanders, published in 1722, is presented as a true story. Northrop Frye, in The Anatomy of Criticism, has defined fiction as any work of art in prose. Now, the characteristics of prose are: it is a straightforward discourse characterized by the use of direct, unadorned form of language. So compared to poetry, in prose you will find language without too many decorations. It will be more simple and more direct, more straightforward. But according to Dryden, prose can also have a rhythm of its own, and he called it the other harmony of prose. Prose is usually the preferred medium for fiction and its related genres such as short story, novel, novella, and so on. The earliest forms of prose fiction were handbooks of morals and manners in story form. John Lyly's Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, published in 1579, is considered one of the first works in prose fiction. Prose fiction now includes fable, short story, novel, novella, and other similar narratives. The prose used in fiction varies from writer to writer according to the nature, style, subject matter, and purpose. Now, in this video, we will discuss the first type of prose fiction, namely the fable. The fable originated in Greece and was one of the earliest and simplest forms of prose fiction. The term fable is derived from the Latin term fabula, meaning discourse or story. Fables are a regular feature of folklore and give ironical or satirical comments on the ethics of ordinary life. Fables usually conclude with a moral lesson given as an epigram. An epigram is a short saying like a proverb. They are detailed versions of proverbs that teach us about various human follies such as greed, complacency, etc. In fables, inanimate characters and animals are usually endowed with human qualities. The first collection of fables is believed to be by Aesop, a Greek slave who lived in the 6th century BC. Aesop's fables consisted of very short narratives that conveyed a moral message. It was Aesop who introduced the beast fable, in which animals were portrayed as the main character. The Roman writer Phaedrus brought out a translated version of Aesop's fables in the 10th century BC under the title Romulus. A famous collection of Indian fables is probably the Fables of Bidpai, very popularly known as the Panchatantra, written in Sanskrit in 300 BC. A medieval example of the fable would be the English poet Geoffrey Chaucer's Nun's Priest's Tale from the Canterbury Tales published in 1387. Fables became popular in Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries because of the French writer Fontaine. Fontaine's verse fables were witty and sophisticated adaptations of the Greek fables. John Dryden, in his Fables Ancient and Modern, published in 1700, shifted from the traditional Aesopian form and presented retellings of stories from Homer, Ovid, Boccaccio, Chaucer, and some of his own poems. An example of a 20th century fable is James Thurber, the American author's Fables of Our Times, published in 1940. A classic example of a modern literary fable is George Orwell's Animal Farm, published in 1945. Orwell used the beast fable form. So, Animal Farm is referred to as a modern beast fable, and Orwell used it to create an allegorical satire on the totalitarian state. So, with this, we come to an end of this video. In the next few videos, we will discuss the other topics that are prescribed for the first module of the paper Reading Fiction. So thank you so much for your patient listening.